if I make a conscious decision to change my diet, as you're suggesting, how long can I expect it to take for my body to heal itself and kind of regenerate itself under new conditions?
Broke down it is. I mean, really. I mean, I'll be 60 years old this year. No, in September. So I can't expect to change my diet today and be great by September. I mean, I tell people you got to eat as long good as you've been eating bad as a starting point. So when you've eaten good, as long as you've been eating bad, then you can expect something. Now, in all honesty, you will notice, and we tell people when we do the restart, because we ask them to drink a half gallon of water a day, unless they have a reason not to. We ask them to eat fruits and vegetables, and we at least ask you to eat at least one major meal raw. You know, a salad, that's raw, a salad. And don't drown it in sauce or dressing. And if you're going to use something, you know, use it sparingly. And if you're going to use it at all, what I suggest people do is you use a light one, and then you toss the salad with the dressing so that it coats the leaf. You shouldn't have a layer this thick, a dressing in the bottom of the bowl after, that's crazy. What you should do is toss it so it gets spread out evenly on all the leaves, and there should be no excess in the bottom. That's the way it should be done. And you drink the water. Now, what you should notice in 30 days, if you do that diligently, and people say, oh, what am I eat? Well, you didn't seem to have no problem eating burgers every day. You didn't have no problem eating whatever, chicken every day. You didn't have no problem going to Burger King every day or McDonald's every day. So I'm saying you got to want to do something. Gets back to your point. You got to change your mind. You don't change your mind, you won't move your behind. You got to change your mind. So I'm saying if you make a decision to change the way you want to eat, if you really want to do it, it ain't hard. I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't hard. People say, oh, it's expensive. No, it's not. It's actually cheaper. There's nothing cheaper than a bag of beans. Nothing. And black beans are probably the most nutritious thing you can eat. And if you mix black beans with whole brown rice, and I tell people avoid all white, anything white, don't eat it. Anything white, white bread, white sugar, white flour, because none of that is natural. Everything that's white is made that way. It's not natural. All the things that are natural, and people from the islands, and they'll tell you it's not like that. I don't know if any of us have even seen, I'm going to start bringing some movies of what rice looks like when it's growing, what it really looks like after it comes off, what flour looks like after you mill the wheat, all this stuff. We don't know no better. And I'm going to tell you, we have the equivalent, if you take 4 Airbus 300 airplanes, fully loaded, and crashed them and killed everybody on board every day, that's how many people die from what they eat. That's the equivalent. We lose 1 million people a year from heart disease, cancer, and the ravages of diabetes. 1 million people. They got mad, and they wanted to get the full force United States Army, and I'm not saying anything bad about, but 9/11, we pulled out all the stops, we put out whatever it took, and we lost, 4,000 people? We lose 1,500 people a day from cancer alone. 1,500. I can tell you in 30 days, after eating a whole food, plant-based way of eating, you will notice visibly a change in your bowel habits. You will not have to go to the bathroom and refreshing your magazine rack and sit there till your leg fall asleep, and wake up with it all, standing up with the foot vibrating and carrying on because you done sat there so long trying to get it out. You will go from a bowel movement that took a while, unless you were just in there hiding from somebody. But you will go from a bowel movement that will take you probably about 30 seconds. And if you notice, the biggest animals on the planet are vegetarians. And elephants don't eat any meat. They don't eat meat. That is, when I say whole foods, I mean stuff that comes from that's a product of the plant. You know, it's not, because you know there's a lot of these vegetarian substitute things that are processed, and they process as much as the other stuff that we're eating. So when I say whole, just stuff that comes from the food, the beans, you know, the dry beans, and there's Caldwell. I spent some time at the Cleveland Clinic and with Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn recently. And the movie Forks Over Knives, you saw Dr. Esselstyn featured in that movie. And what he did is they gave him 16 patients who had bypass surgery and they couldn't have it anymore because they all clogged up again. Or they had stents on the heart and those clogged up and they couldn't, you know, 5, 6 stents and they couldn't do that anymore. The doctor say, hey, you're gonna have another heart attack, it's gonna kill you, so enjoy whatever little time you got left. So Dr. Esselstyn took those 16 patients who many of them had less than maybe a couple years to live, and 20 years later, all but one are still alive. And I would recommend anybody to get that book. It's called Reversing Cardiovascular Disease by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. I went to Cleveland Clinic. I spent time with him. I spent time at his house with his wife. I ate at their table. I slept in their house. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. And he's got the scientific proof, and he's going to report on 200 more patients that have had similar kinds of results. And he's also written a paper that says that if, as physicians, we don't begin to get patients and show patients how to modify their diet, that we are not doing the job. We're not doing it. So to have a diabetic, because diabetes can be, unless it's type 1, can usually be completely reversed. Type 2 diabetes can usually be completely reversed. So you really, and there's some evidence that Dr. Esselstyn is advancing that he's seen even some of the cancers that some of the patients had do much better. He's not going out on a limb to say that he's doing it, but it just makes sense. And so I have a patient I just talked to this morning, and I said, you know, if you're not going to have any radiation, or we talked about all that stuff, at least do this. And he's gone out now, he and his wife, and they've changed and have a whole plant way of diet. But there's one other point to that, and that's the other gentleman, if you want to read some more stuff about this. And a lot of this stuff is stuff Dr. Alvina Fulton was talking about 40 years ago. Okay, 40, 50 years ago, she was talking about the same thing. The other thing that we're going to learn how to do, we need to fast. We need to rest our system every once in a while. Don't eat anything. Okay, as long as you're not diabetic or have a problem like that. The other thing he talked about is stress management. Stress, they've shown evidence now that stress even of itself causes the blood vessels to begin to have this disease, just like have hardening of the arteries, just from stress. So we need we need to manage our stress. And the guy that I went out to Sausalito, California, to visit with this gentleman, Dr. Dean Ornish. You look up his stuff, Ornish, O-R-N-I-S-H. And he has all this stuff. Yesterday, I was with the people for the Cardiac Health Improvement Program, the CHIP program, because what I want to do is try to bring some of these non-traditional things to people, because I believe people want it. And, you know, and if I were to go back into medicine again, I would have an office that would be centered around how to get people off their medicine. Because all you do, and I'll get to the question, I'm sorry for these long answers, but if you had a triangle, and I got this on the computer thing that I do, and you had pharmacy companies, device manufacturers, and biotech at one part, and you had providers, doctors, nurses, hospitals, clinics, and everything else. Then you had the payers, Blue Cross Blue Shield, all of those things. In the middle of the triangle, the thing that drives that whole thing is disease. It's disease that drives our system. And it's not curing, it's managing. So the money is in managing your high blood pressure, getting you on the pills, and keeping you on those pills. I don't know if anybody in this room takes any medication at all, but it ain't cheap. And a lot of our seniors, especially, because the older you get, you work all your life, you get to be 65 years old, maybe you get 2 years, and then all of a sudden you got something, you got arthritis so bad you can't move, or, we're not vibrant anymore like we used to be. And now we're seeing hip replacements. We got a ton of them at the county in guys that are 50 years old, 45, 50 years old, need a new hip. Part of that is because our diets are so acidotic that it resorbs our bone. Because the bones, the body is trying to neutralize that acid, so it takes out calcium and phosphorus out of the bones. The answer isn't eating more yogurt. The answer is trying to eat the foods that keep you from being acidotic. What are those? They're vegetables. That's what they are. And so, and if eating milk products would make the bones more strong, as we saw in the movie, why are the countries that eat them and drink the most dairy have the most hip fractures from osteoporosis? It's not the milk. It's the cause of why the bones are brittle. So we need to think, at least from one point of view, we need to think about that. We need to understand it, and we need to try to figure out, and don't take my word for anything I've said. Don't take my word for it. Go find out for yourself. Read it and research it yourself, because then you'll be convinced. If you don't believe what I'm talking about for not eating meat for 30 days, I double dare you to try it. I double dare you to try it. For 30 days, no cheating. And when I say eating, cookies ain't vegetables, donuts ain't vegetables, okay? And you want to try to eat as much whole food. I mean, the way I did it is and I'm not one of these people since I grew up in a family of 10 kids that got used to eating the same thing every day. So I got big project type pots like this. And I'll buy collard greens. I'll make a great big old pot of collard greens. I eat that collard greens all week. Because I don't need something different. Like some people say, I can't eat leftovers. We made meals out of leftovers. So you can do greens. I do, like today, okay, this is string bean week. So I'm going to go buy string beans. And I'm going to make a great big pot of string beans. The only thing that happens now is that too many of my friends will call me up and they're at the door with their Tupperware. So, you can do these things. Or you can do kale, or you can do collard greens or turnip greens. You can do that now, especially when it gets cold, then beans. You don't even have to know how to cook the beans. Just read the thing on the side of the bag. It'll show you how to cook the beans. And if you're going to buy dry beans, a lot of people recommend you to soak them. Most people, I grew up soaking. So I soak. But you don't have to. But you're likely to have a little more gas if you don't, I think. That's my opinion. But beans, cheap. You can get a bag of beans for like pinto. And there are lots of different beans. Pinto beans, black-eyed peas, all kind of peas. Garbanzo beans, another great, and garbanzo beans, I eat, for lunch, I have rice and garbanzo beans. And I'll go to an Indian restaurant and get them because they hook it up. They hook it up. You want to get some good food, you go to some of those Indian restaurants because a lot of them are vegetarian. And they will have that stuff. Soul Vegetarian, you go to Soul Veg, you can go to, there are a lot of different places now. And I go to restaurants and people say, well, how many when I go to a restaurant? I was out at Park 52 the other night. If it ain't on the menu, ask them for it. And don't let them bring you a bowl full of pasta, spaghetti or something. No. Or if you notice that they have you can get a side of broccoli, and I mix it up and make my own platter. So I still go out with my friends, and if they want to eat the steak, I'm like, look, man, that's you and your coronary arteries, not mine. So you do what you want. You do you, I'm going to do me. Okay? And so y'all eat whatever you want. I don't, when I'm out with people, I don't look at them with disdain if they eat, because I'm like, I remember eating that stuff. That was good. I liked it. I ain't going to lie. I liked it. And, but, I'm trying to do a different thing now. I'm not going to ever say I'll never eat another piece of meat. I'm not going to tell y'all that. But I can tell you I probably have had I've had what I would have consumed in a week has probably taken me 2 years.